Hello, my name is Diamond, aka Lady Leo. Welcome to my YouTube channel, or welcome back if you are a brand new viewer. So, I am continuing to talk about movie musicals, which I just find to be a very fascinating category. And I am not going in any particular order. And I decided to do Sweeny Todd next because I was scrolling through Prime trying to find something to watch. I saw Sweeny Todd and that it was leaving in like a week, and I'm just like, okay, well, let me check and see if there's anybody else that has it. Nobody else has it. So I decided to watch Sweeny Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street. First off, I think I said in my Mean Girls musical review that this one looked like it was Tim Burton. I mean, it was in my script, but I don't know if it made the actual video. But I was like, it looked like Tim Burton because Tim Burton has a very specific kind of distinct style. He almost always uses like Johnny Depp and like Helena Bonham Carter. So I was like, this looks like a Tim Burton film. And right when I started to watch it, it said this is a Tim Burton production. I was like, does that mean it's directed by him, or is this just like his production company? And nope, it's directed by Tim Burton. I was like, yes, got it. It's a Tim Burton film. So let me start off by saying, I think maybe I saw the trailer for this a while ago, but I'd never heard of the musical before. And if I'm being wholly honest, I'm not a big fan of Tim Burton. I don't think he's a bad director. I'm just saying that kind of horror style Sidge is not my jam. I'm not a horror person. Anyway, so this just never interested me. But I wrote it down on the list because I haven't seen it. And it's a movie musical. So let's get started with our story of Sweeny Todd. Our story follows Sweeny Todd, who's played by Johnny Depp, of course, obligatory in a Tim Burton film. And early on, we understand that he's been somewhere because there was this misjustice. He was accused of something and sent off. I'm not really sure what happened. They don't dive into that aspect of it. I mean, we understand that he was accused of something and sent to jail. I don't know. They never say jail explicitly or like where he's been. They just say it's been like 15 years since he's been gone. So like, he kind of got like Monte Cristo'd. If you've seen The Count of Monte Cristo, you know what I mean. So yeah, we start off with him coming back to London, and let me just say that I really enjoyed Johnny Depp's voice. I think he has a very unique kind of singing voice, and I've heard him sing before because I've watched Into the Woods, which is on the list as well. But anyway, so I really like his singing voice. This whole movie is in this kind of almost monotone color palette. It's just very gray scale. And I'm just wondering to myself, is this what Victorian London looked like? Because if so, it's kind of bleak. No sunlight, no color going on. It's just very grayscale. It could be heavily exaggerated too because it's a Tim Burton film. Anyway, so I think we get a flashback before he gets off the boat, which was him in a much brighter color palette with his wife and their young daughter at a market or something. And then the judge, who seems to heavily covet his wife, gets him arrested and taken somewhere. And that's like a part of the backstory. So he comes into town. He goes into Miss Lovett's shop. This is played by Helena Bonham Carter, the other part of the trio. And so she's making... I'm trying to think of the nicest way to say this. The most disgusting pies you can think of while she sings about... It's pretty funny, actually. She's making these disgusting pies, and then she's also singing about how they're the worst pies in London. As there's just like roaches running across her bench, and she's it's gross. And he must have been hungry or something because he's seeing her make all of this while she sings the song about it. He still takes a bite out of that nasty pie and a drink from that nasty ale. He doesn't die somehow. He manages not to die. But through her, he learns that his daughter is, she's been adopted by the judge. And his wife, I guess she went to a soiree and she drank something and poisoned herself. I don't know. I'm sure there's some stuff I'm missing in terms of like implicit, but I don't know. That's how it plays out on screen. She goes to a party, she drinks something, and I guess we're supposed to understand that she's dead. So that's how he finds out what happened to his wife and his daughter, who also doesn't know who he is because she would have been a baby when he was taken away. So Miss Lovett then presents him with like an abandoned barber shop that he can stay slash work in. Also, later on, it's implied that she's known him, like she has a crush on him. Like I don't understand because they don't really explain their past relationship, or maybe I missed it. So they must have known each other back then, and she always had a crush on him, which is going to come into play later on. Also, Miss Lovett is making she's making nasty ass pies. Don't nobody eat them, but she has this huge building with another structure on top of it. Like she owns what almost looks like an inn, a pie shop, and then she has a barber shop on top. Where does she get the money? Like she doesn't seem like she's making any money, but she can afford this establishment. I don't know. I'm just interested. So anyway, Miss Lovett takes him up to her abandoned barber shop, which only has one chair. She pulls out a set of sterling silver. I imagine it's sterling silver. Straight razors. And then he sings a song about loving the razor. What was the song about? I think the song was about like, this is my tool, my weapon, something like that. I feel like a lot of songs in this movie are kind of like, how do I describe them? They're almost not full songs. It's almost like, you know, when you watch a Disney movie, and I'm going to use The Little Mermaid as an example. So you have Part of Your World, right? That's a complete song. And then later on, when she's on the beach and she's actually seeing Eric, there's a little bit of a reprise. So it's part of the same song. Well, not part of the same song. It's a little like addition. It's the same music, but it's not like the full song. That's kind of what I feel like all the music in this movie is. Most of it is not like full songs. It's really just like parts of songs, which I actually kind of vibe with because I feel like it mixes with the dialogue really well, as opposed to having like a 5-minute song and then going back to dialogue. You kind of get like 1 to 3 minutes and then you go back to dialogue. So I think it works really well, but most of the songs in this movie, to me, they just don't feel like full songs. They just feel like continuations of like the dialogue, if that makes sense. Anyway, so she gives him the razors. He's like, let's get started on killing people. He doesn't say that, but I'm assuming is the implication. I don't know how these are going. I'm not really sure in the beginning how he thinks these are going to facilitate him to kill the judge, which is what his revenge is. But okay, we're going to get there, right? Before we get there, next we have Joanna. I'm getting some real Cosette vibes from Joanna, like Cosette from Les Miserables. And she's sitting in the window singing about being in a cage. And then you have... Sorry, let me check my notes because I don't know what his name is. So you have Anthony. Anthony is this kid who came on the boat with Sweeny, and he sees Joanna in the window and immediately becomes enamored with her. So after Joanna's done singing her song about being in a cage, I'm gonna steal you, Joanna. I'm like, whoa, you haven't even met her in person. You just saw her from the window and you're just like, I'm gonna steal you. How do you even know she's locked in there? How do you know she's just not in her window looking out? On, like, maybe she just does that on a normal Tuesday. But between Anthony and Joanna, I'm getting some real Cosette and Marius vibes from Les Miserables, hardcore. These actors are actually a bit younger, though, than the actors who are playing those characters in Les Miserables, but just getting the same vibe from them, getting instantly falling in love with somebody you technically haven't met. All right, next we're going to this market excursion, if you will, and I can't get over the color palette in here, although I will say, I do think the way that the color palette gets used is interesting, right? Because most of the movie is in this monotone grayscale kind of color palette. Like nobody's got vitamin D in their diet. Everybody's very pale. And then there are moments where you have like pops of color, or like if you go back to a flashback, that might be in a more brighter color. So I guess to a certain extent, the movie does use color very interesting, but most of it is in this kind of monotone color palette, which I don't like. Anyway, so we're moving on to this market excursion where you have this kid who's selling this hair elixir. He's passing it around, and Sweeney Todd's like, "This is just piss, just piss." And you have the guy that the kid works for come out, and they have like a shave off of men's beards. Sweeney Todd wins, and eventually, what ends up happening is though that guy whose name I can't remember, he's played by Sacha Baron Cohen. He comes to the barber shop and he's like, "Yo, Sweeney, I know who you really are, Benjamin Parker. I remember you. And I want 50% of your barbershop business that you haven't started yet." So he basically blackmails him, and Sweeney's like, "No," and kills him immediately. You shouldn't blackmail people, okay? Especially people who don't want you to know who they are. Like, you should have more awareness. But he doesn't. He gets killed. I can see they're also going with the whole real fake blood in this movie. I'm assuming it's to get around the MPG, whatever the rating system is. So they use fake blood. He's dead. The guy's ward, the kid. What's the kid's name? Todd? Is it Todd? Let me see if I wrote down my notes. The kid doesn't, I mean, he's in there. I didn't write him down a lot in my notes. Is his name Todd? All right, I didn't write it down. I don't remember what the kid's name is, but the kid's like, "No, I'm going to wait for my master." And Sweeney's like, "Go back downstairs. Your he's left." Anyway, so like the very next thing that happens is that Anthony, this is the guy that's now newly in love with Joanna, which is actually Sweeney Todd's daughter. He knows that. She doesn't know that. Anthony doesn't know that. Just wanted to give you some context. He runs over to Sweeney Todd's place. He's like, "I gotta break Joanna out of the house where the judge keeps her." And he enlists Sweeney Todd's help, and Sweeney Todd, because he knows who Joanna is like, "Yeah, sure, whatever, I'll help you." I don't remember them actually saying what help looks like. He just told Anthony he would help him. Or actually, now that I think about it, I don't think he did tell him he would help him. I think it was just sort of like heavily implied before they cut to the next scene. Then we cut to the judge, who is the worst. I mean, he's played by Alan Rickman, he does a great job playing really terrible people. Also, Alan Rickman, fine. Yes. Ooh. He's so attractive. Anyway, so what ensues is this combination between him and like his second-hand man. I don't know his name in this movie because I don't think they ever say, but essentially he's Wormtail from Harry Potter, Prisoner of Azkaban. He's in more than those, but that's the first time we see Wormtail. Anyway, my point is that he's starting to talk about Joanna in the sense of like getting married, and I swear to God, I cannot tell if he's talking about marrying her himself or marrying her off. It really feels like he's talking about marrying her himself, because she's technically not his daughter blood-wise, and he only adopted her. But it's really strange and kind of unsettling that the movie, to me, doesn't really clarify if he's talking about marrying her or marrying her off. And then essentially he goes to get a shave from Sweeney Todd. So while this whole time Sweeney's singing, Alan Rickman's singing, this is a perfect time for you to take him out. For whatever reason, he doesn't take him out. And then he gets mad at himself when Helena Bonham Carter, Miss Lovett, she circles back and she's like, "Why didn't you kill him?" He's like, "Right there, I didn't kill him. Why didn't I kill him?" Yeah, he doesn't kill him. The two of them do another song. Really, this is really Miss Lovett singing mostly. They sing about pies, but really they're talking about meat pies. What ensues is so elaborate. It took me a second to realize what was happening. So he set up this situation in which he does shaves for men, and they pick people who are like transient, people who are new. While he's shaving them, he cuts their throats. The chair throws them back, breaks their necks, so they're definitely dead. And then, because it sends them down to the basement, and then Miss Lovett breaks them down into meat for her meat pies, and the shop becomes successful because everybody eating there is now cannibals. I think she says that like meat is something that's really hard to get. So if that's true, why wouldn't people become suspicious, right? Like you had a failing business, it looks like to me, and now you got a bump. Like now you have access to meat all the time. They don't question it though. Everybody's eating the meat. Cannibals they are. I know how much time is passing because this is all sort of like a montage. But Miss Lovett is super happy. Her business is on and popping. She's got her man. I say that loosely because Sweeny Todd is not thinking about that woman like that. But she's over here fantasizing about their lives where they go through this hilarious song that I absolutely love. So she's in this beautiful like red ensemble. And the funny thing is Johnny Depp's facial expressions are just like, I don't really want to be here. The whole song, while she's singing about like how enamored she is and how they should get married and all this stuff. And he's just like, his face doesn't change. It's hilarious. That's kind of how he thinks of her. Like in his mind, he's still like, I gotta kill the judge. Like that's my only goal. Still got my revenge. I don't really care about you, but if it makes you happy, cool, whatever. Yes, great. So that's kind of his mindset. And she's over here in Delulu land. It's just really funny how the movie does it. So now we get to like a finale that has so much going on. So essentially, Anthony does eventually break Joanna out. Oh shit, I forgot to include this. Sorry, I wrote it in my notes, but I must have forgot to like go over it. So essentially, Joanna tries to leave, although she doesn't know how to do it stealthily. Girlie has the door open with a suitcase that she's packing, as opposed to like leaving with what you can fit in your bag or just on your person. So she's trying to leave, and the judge catches her and sends her off to the asylum. I mean, he's a judge, so I guess he can just do that. The guy is hella cruel. I remember there being a scene in the movie where he sentences a child to be hanged. It doesn't even say what for. It's just like, you're going to be hanged. And I'm just like, whoa. So anyway, he sends her off to the asylum. Anthony finds out where she is and he breaks her free and he takes her to Sweeny Todd's barber shop because that's her father. But he left because Miss Lovett... So the boy starts to get a little too curious. He starts asking too many questions. Miss Lovett decides the best place to put him is in her dungeon where she does the chopping up of the people for the meat pies. Girl, if there's something, you don't want him to know that you do that. Like, he asks too many questions. I can't think of a worse thing than locking him into that room. The room is attached to the sewer, so I guess theoretically he could get out because they go looking through the sewer. They can't find him, which is why they're not in the barber shop when Joanna is taken there. So we get like 2 deaths in quick succession, right? So like there's this woman who's been meandering around the movie. Her face is completely shielded. She's wearing like a hat. And as the movie went on, I'm just like, this lady's got to be important because they keep showing her. They keep bringing her up. And I realized who she was right when Sweeny Todd split her neck. So she comes in mumbling something. And then for the first time in the movie, like she tilts her head up and we can see her full face. It's clearly his former spouse. Obviously, she looks a little ragged. It's been 15 years. She recognizes him. Not immediately, but she's like, do I know you? And he's just like, swash. He slices her throat and sends her down to the dungeon immediately. After that, the judge comes, and the judge, because he's looking for Joanna, and Joanna is hid in like a chest at this point. So anyway, the judge comes to Sweeny Todd's shop. He's like, I'm looking for Joanna. I don't remember what he says to the judge, but essentially he gets his revenge. Because the judge realizes who he was. Maybe that's what he was waiting for. He wanted the judge to be able to know, it's me, bitch. And then he takes him out. He's just like, slap, scourge, and down the rabbit hole. So now you've got two people down there. You've got the judge who still isn't dead yet. We'll get to him in a second. And then you have his spouse. I don't remember her name, but anyway, she's down there too. Whew. There's a lot going on in the finale. I told you. We got a couple more things, and then the finale's done. He heads down to the dungeon. He I'm pretty sure he finds Joanna. He's literally about to slice Joanna's neck. And then Miss Lovett comes in and is like, hey, we got to go down to the dungeon, take care of some business. And so they go down to the dungeon. We don't see Joanna for the rest of the movie. The judge was still alive, so he ends up killing the judge. And then he looks at the woman whose neck he sliced. And he's like, is that my wife? He realizes who it is. He's distraught. Then he looks at Miss Lovett and he's like, yo, you said she was dead. And she's like, oh, did I say that? I mean, she was kind of sort of dead. He is upset at Miss Lovett because Girlie knew the wife was alive and who she was the whole time, but she was so enamored and in love with Sweeny and had been for a long time. She's like, this is my time, bitch. And she just chose not to tell him. What ensues is the okay, it's the funniest thing in the whole movie because two of them start dancing and she's like, I really love you and I did this for you, whatever it is. And he's getting like progressively and more mad as he spins. He's doing this so he can spin her closer to the open oven that she uses to bake her meat pies. And then he just tosses her in there. It's very hilarious. The effects on her burning are pretty good. He tosses her in there and then like a savage, he looks at her, closes that door, looks at her through, closes. It was hilarious. So she's dead. And then he goes over to his wife. As he's doing that, the boy, is his name Todd? I don't remember what the boy's name is. The boy comes out of wherever he was hiding, which is like in the sewage, and he cuts Sweeney's throat. He starts bleeding over his wife. That's the end of the movie. I definitely don't think I would see this as a musical. It's just not my vibe. I do think this would probably make for like a really interesting, like limited edition series. I think that would have been interesting if it had played out more than like over a movie. Because like what happens to Joanna? Does Joanna ever find out that's her dad? Not that it would change anything. But yeah, I didn't think it was horrible. It's not going to be one of my favorite musicals. And that's okay. This might be, for some other people, might like really love this. I thought it was okay. There were some songs in there that I enjoyed. But there were some definitely really enjoyable and really funny moments in there. Like I said, that last scene, I rewound it a couple times because it was really hilarious. All right, but that's Sweeny Todd. Let me know in the comments below. Have you seen the movie? If you have seen the original musical, how does this compare? Better, worse, just kind of okay? Let me know in the comments below. Like, comment, subscribe. That's my time. Bye.